Hello again, welcome back everyone. Liquorhound with you. Thank you once again for joining me for another YouTube video. This is going to be kind of a video response to a lot of questions that I've been getting ever since I created the Ultra Premium Vodka taste test videos. People have been asking me, how does Tito's compare to Absolute, or how does Chopin compare to Finlandia, and so on. And so I decided, in order for me to answer those questions, I was going to have to sit down with them and taste them. Well, I thought, let's just make a video of it, and it'd probably be a little fun. I'll get to taste, what we have here, 16 vodkas side by side, nose them, taste them, and give you, my little short little review of each one, okay? I do have them separated. This section over here is going to be American vodkas, and from here this way are going to be world vodkas. And the reason I did the separation is because there's two different type of regulations they have to go by when being created. And it's very, very important to keep that in mind, because the U.S. regulations is actually very, very strict, okay? In order for a vodka to be created here in the U.S., first, it has to be treated with charcoal or some other type of filtration media to remove all characteristics of color, taste, and aroma. Okay, very important there. And the second most important rule that they have is that no flavorings can be added to the distillation. Okay, so if you add any type of flavoring to it, it has to be labeled as a flavored vodka, and the actual whatever you added has to be on the label. The European Union regulations, that's the regulations that the rest of the world goes by as far as vodkas, are not quite that strict. They actually allow some of the flavorings, and I think the way they word it is the raw fermentable materials need to be selectively reduced. Okay, all that means is you can leave a little bit in there for flavoring, and that's okay with them. You don't have to filter everything out of it. Okay. The other thing that they have is that they can actually add some flavors into the vodka without actually calling it a flavored vodka. The way they word that is that flavors can be added to provide special organoleptic characteristics. And all that means is you can add a little bit of flavoring to give it a little nuances of aroma or taste or whatever you want to do to help tailor it to be a little better experience for you, the consumer. Okay. So, with that all being said, that gives me a little more respect for some of these vodkas that I'm actually able to get some flavor out of on the U.S. side, because they worked really, really hard to follow those guidelines and still create a product that can do that for us. Okay, as far as the world ones, we have one from Iceland, this Reka. We have 3 from Sweden. We have 1 Finland. And then we have 3 from Poland and 2 from Russia. Okay. Now we're going to start off with the nosing, starting right over there in the very front, Tito's. Tito's has definitely alcohol on the nose. It's not really harsh, but it's definitely noticeable. And just a little bit of the grain note coming through. Next we're going to have Charbet. A little lower on the alcohol, but it's still there. Definite grain note. And a real mild sweetness. Next we're at Crop Organic, this one right here. Very low alcohol, a touch of citrus, a hint of floral, very, very nice. Next we're going to do Prairie Organic. The alcohol in this one's almost completely gone. Just a little bit of the grain and a little floral note comes in at the end. It's almost like a lavender note. Next we're at Rain Organic. They use corn as their base grain. And you can definitely tell a difference, because I think that corn imparts a little more sweetness. But I don't really get any of the ethanol. Next, Enchanted Rock, coming out of San Antonio, Texas. Very clean, very soft. As far as the grain note, it's very, very delicate in there. And again, very, very low alcohol. Alright, the one from Iceland, Reika. Definitely get the grain, but there's also a big maltiness going on here as well. And it's definitely a little sweet. Maybe just a touch of vanilla in that one as well. Now we're at Absolute. I would give that one like a medium alcohol level, very light on the grain, and really not much else going on there. We're at Rock. Light and clean. And just the grain, so it's really nice. It's very, very, matter of fact, you can almost say that there's no alcohol really on the nose on this one. Vodka coming up next. Very similar to Rock, very, very low on the alcohol on the nose. A little bit of sweet grain coming through. I almost get a little floral note in that one as well, in the background. Okay, Finlandia. More alcohol. I would call that a low to medium alcohol level on Finlandia. Noticeable grain note though. It's not subtle, it's there. Yeah, but that alcohol is definitely there as well. Chopin, now this is a potato vodka. We're getting into the Polish vodkas now. I would call that one, it's very light and clean again. And it's definitely a little sweeter. I'm thinking that's going to be from the potato, and not, because you're not using the grain. And I think that starch of that potato is just imparting that extra sweetness level that I'm picking up on the nose there. Now we're at Belvedere. Very similar to Chopin as far as the sweetness level, but Belvedere has a little more of a floral note going on, and I think it's a little sweeter on the nose. And just a hint of vanilla as well on that one. Sobieski, the last Polish one. I think it has a little more alcohol than Chopin, but maybe about ties on Belvedere as far as on the nose. It's still very low, very light grain, pretty clean. Now on to Imperia. That one would be a low to medium strength on the ethanol on the nose. A little sweetness. Again, I'm getting a little hint of a vanilla nose going on. And I haven't had any vanilla today, so I don't think that's on my brain. I think it's just something I'm picking up in a couple of these. But the alcohol level is a little bit stronger on Imperia. And the sweetness, again, still there. Russian Standard, the Platinum. The grain is there. The alcohol is there again. Slightly sweet, but there's also something going on with that grain note. Again, it kind of, I think it was Absolute that kind of had that strangeness going on the grain. It's a little darker. It's not that fresh, light grain flavor. It's a little bit bolder. Alright, let's get to the taste. Starting back at Tito's. Tito's rolls in pretty straightforward. You're going to get the grain, you get that little semi-sweetness going. Then the alcohol kicks in about mid-palate, and the grain and the alcohol kind of just roll together through the finish. There's really no citrus or anything like that. Maybe just a hint of floral in the very background, but that's towards the finish. Overall, nice little vodka. I'd probably use it more for a mixer than an actual sipper. Moving to Charbet. Big difference between the two. Now Charbet, they're known for making wine, okay? So I don't know why, but I definitely get a little bit of a grape flavor before the grain comes in. It may be a nuance to the grain that's just hitting me a little differently. But it kind of reminds me of Ciroc in the very beginning, that grape, and then the grain rolls in with the warmth. Very creamy on the palate, but that warmth level is definitely, it's reaching a low to medium level, and the grain note is very strong throughout the finish. Again, that could be a sipper. I think I would chill Charbet if I was going to be sipping it. Probably be the best route there. Now we're at Crop Organic. It rolls in very softly. The grain picks up, but kind of a little bit later on towards the mid-palate, and the alcohol kicks in there as well. It's perhaps not as strong as Charbet, but close. The mouthfeel is not as oily as Charbet. That may not be positive or negative in your book, it all depends. But overall, it's a pretty nice little vodka. Next, we're at Prairie Organic. Now, Prairie has a unique little flavor there. It definitely has some vanilla going on. Almost like a little hint of caramel or butterscotch right in the very beginning. Then the grain comes in. It's semi-sweet. Again, the mouthfeel is pretty creamy. Not the fullest mouthfeel that I've had, but definitely pretty tasty. Again, I think these three could probably benefit from just a little bit of chilling. And next we're going to go with Rain. Now, Rain uses a corn as the distillate base, and you can definitely tell it's different. It's not the wheat or the barley that's traditionally used. It's a little sweeter and definitely a lot milder than the previous ones. Very low alcohol, but you definitely can pick up that corn sweetness going on. But it's overall a very, very nice vodka. Enchanted Rock. That's the softest one of them all. The mouthfeel on it is probably the best of the ones that I've had so far. Very soft, very creamy on the mouthfeel. Think like a cream soda, that type of flavoring, but very, very subtle. overall I would call it a very clean vodka, but there's just enough of that flavor profile going on that is keeping it pretty interesting. So very, very nice stuff. Reka. Wow, that one is big. Big, bold grain and malt flavors. Very, very nice mouthfeel, very full in the mouth. But that maltiness, it almost reminds me of the type of malt that you would see in a beer. You know, that it's sweet, but it's malty. And then you have that grain right up on top, and then you have this real creamy texture going on. Very, very nice stuff. I think if you chilled that just a little bit again, that would knock off that little bit of heat that's showing up towards the finish, and you would still maintain a lot of flavor in that glass. So very, very nice. Now we're going with Absolute. What's that? Yeah, that one's not, even though it's the least favorite of the ones I've tried, it's probably at the lower end as far as vodkas go in my book. Again, I think the grain note is getting, they're trying to go for the semi-sweet malty note going on, but the maltiness is getting kind of dark in the flavor profile, so it's coming off as a, almost like a musty grain note going on, so not quite there. Now we're going to go with Rock. Very similar to Enchanted Rock. Soft. The grain flavor is there, but it's very nice and light. And you definitely get the sweetness going on and a creamy mouthfeel. Very similar, like I said, it's similar to this one. I think I would almost lean towards this one as far as the complexity, because that's about all I'm getting on the Rock. But for only $13, fantastic value. Vodka. A little more vanilla than Rock. They seem very similar, and while this one has a little vanilla note, it also has a little more alcohol. Again, these two would probably they will work very well in a tasting, but they probably mix fantastic. Matter of fact, I think if you chill the Rock, it would pretty much just disappear. You'd be able to drink that thing, it would feel like cold water. So very, very nice, clean vodkas. Now we're going to go to Finlandia. It's definitely a grain vodka, but the alcohol level on it is a little higher. I think it's probably better if you're going to use that in a cocktail. The heat on it is just a little too warm compared to what some of these others are. But other than that, Finlandia is very, very nice. I think it worked great as a mixer. Or if you like a little bolder flavors in your vodka, if you like Reka, you'd probably like Finlandia. The heat is definitely there, so maybe you're one of those that enjoys the heat in vodka. Then in that case, Finlandia is probably right up your alley. Next, we're going to go with Chopin. It rolls in, again, very soft and light. the potato, again, I think definitely does impart that starchiness that gives it that extra level of sweetness, because it's pretty sweet. The only other one that I could say was about that sweet, I would say Enchanted Rock. Maybe Rock has the almost same amount of sweetness, but that potato doesn't give you that real bold grain note going on. It just kind of almost blends in with the alcohol note that's peaking. Again, probably a really nice sipper. Now, we're going to move on to Belvedere. Very similar to Chopin, but Belvedere has a little more of a floral note going on, a touch of vanilla to complement that grain note, the potato note, the sweetness. But I think the alcohol level on Belvedere is just a shade higher, so it's kind of a give and take. You know, do you want the softer Chopin with maybe a little less of the nuances of the floral notes, or do you want the floral notes but you're going to have a little more warmth with the Belvedere? It's whatever you personally enjoy. Next, we're going to go to Sobieski. Very light, very clean. A touch of vanilla. And the alcohol shows up mid-palate, but it stays pretty low. Overall, for the value, I think Sobieski is a great buy. It's probably not as soft as Chopin, but definitely softer than Belvedere, but not nearly as complex. So it kind of depends on what you're really looking for. But as just a all-around type vodka, Sobieski is right there. Next, we're going to go with Imperia. Bigger grain flavor, a little heavier on the malt note. It is semi-sweet. The alcohol level is it's on the higher end, but again, I think if you chill that one, that would probably knock down that heat just a little bit. But other than that, that full grain flavor and that malt note would probably work really well if it was chilled. And last but not least, Russian Standard, the Platinum. That one, it reminds me of Absolute. In so much as the alcohol level is medium, and that grain note, that maltiness, has gotten dark on the flavor. It's again, I think like musty, you know. The only difference I would say between the Absolute and that one, the Absolute is, of all these on the table, the thinnest on the palate. Very, very, very thin, so it doesn't create a really nice textural experience. It's just very watery. I think it would work, you know, what they use it for, and you chill it with a shot, it probably like cold water. The other thing, you know, you mix it in a cocktail, it'll probably pretty much disappear. But I think there's just better choices out there for you. But again, this is just one man's opinion. You know, it's really all up to you to decide what type of vodka you like. I'd recommend you go out and maybe pick up Rock for only $13. See what you feel like it tastes like to you. Does it match what I'm saying? Because if it does, then probably the rest of these will probably match what you know, my feelings to you. So again, just thank you for watching my videos. I really appreciate it. Keep leaving all those great comments. Thank you for everything, and good night. Cheers.